This podcast is a Radio Mike original production. Head to radiomike.com.au to find out more. This episode of Harry Potter and the Boys is brought to you by Radio Mike on Patreon and the 20th Century Boy podcast. Head to patreon.com/Radio Mike and for as little as $1 a month, get a bonus podcast every week. And search 20th Century Boy on your favorite podcast app to hear more from me every week. 50 years after the final Harry Potter book, Harry Potter is now headmaster of Hogwarts, ready to usher in a brand new generation of witches and wizards. My name's Radio Mike, and I love Harry Potter. In fact, I love Harry Potter so much that when I was a kid, I wrote a series of 7 Harry Potter fan fiction novels. This is book 2 in that series. Welcome to Harry Potter and the Team Wizard Tournament. Hello, Hamoras, everyone. Thank you for checking out this bonus podcast today of my review of Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore, the third movie in the Fantastic Beasts franchise. I saw this yesterday. I also think I'm trying to get this out as quickly as possible because I believe all the professional YouTube reviewers and stuff who went to the premiere of the movie, they had to embargo their reviews on YouTube until the movie comes out in the US next week. So I didn't get invited to the premiere. So I say this in the thing, but I'm pretty sure I'm just putting this out. I don't care. So I made this for YouTube, so I'm just going to cut to the YouTube audio here. But thanks for checking it out. I hope you enjoy the movie. These are my thoughts. Let me know what you thought. RadioMikePod@gmail.com, which a few people are already starting to do. So yeah, let me know what you think. Enjoy this bonus podcast and I'll see you next week. Love you guys. Hello everyone, Mike here. Welcome to my review of Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore, the third movie in the Fantastic Beasts trilogy. And I saw this yesterday at Melbourne Central here in Melbourne by myself at a 12:15 screening. A lot of other YouTubers that cover movies, I don't think they've published reviews yet because there's an embargo if you've seen the press screening, but I didn't get invited to the press screening, so I don't have to follow any embargo. I'm publishing my review as soon as this is done, and I gotta say, I had the highest of high hopes for this. Genuinely was really, really excited for this, but ultimately, unfortunately, it just isn't that good. I'm so sorry to everyone who wants this movie to be great, but it's not that good. And there's a lot of reasons for that. You've got, I looking at the trilogy now, if it is a trilogy, there's been talks that maybe this is the last now, even though there were supposed to be 5 movies. But looking at the 3 Fantastic Beasts movies that have come out, I think the first one's the best because it was just Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. It was just a fun Harry Potter spin-off movie in the Wizarding World. Then that was when they announced it was originally going to be a trilogy. That's when they announced it was going to be a 5 movie series, pentology, quintilogy, whatever that is. And that's when I was like, okay, these are going to be terrible because it's just a cash grab now. And that's what I think it is. And then they bungled the second movie, which was convoluted. There was a dumb kind of hook, twist, cliffhanger ending at the end. And I just think they didn't know what they were doing with it. That whole movie existed to just set up another 3 movies. And Crimes of Grindelwald was really bad. Didn't enjoy it at all. Didn't like it. And I thought they would put a lot of effort into this to kind of get this series back and running to what it needed to be. But yeah, I really don't think they've done that too well. And don't get me wrong, there are really good parts about this movie. There are things about this movie that make me so upset that we're not getting more of it. There are parts about this movie that I think are so good that people who like Harry Potter and the Wizarding World would love. But then I just think there are key issues in this whole thing that prevent it from being great. It's quite long. It's about 2.5 hours. It's paced okay. Like, it felt a little bit draggy at the end. But I think most movies over 2 hours can get like that. But anyway, let's just talk about it from the perspective of the story in Harry Potter. So we end Crimes of Grindelwald with this twist that Grindelwald tells Credence that he is actually Aurelius Dumbledore. And he is the fourth child of the Dumbledore family after Albus, Aberforth, Ariana, then Aurelius. And that's kind of the cliffhanger, but I didn't feel like that was earned because, you know, it's just like, okay, cool, what do we do with that? Now, that thread continues in this. Now here are the good parts about this movie. I actually think the relationship between Albus and Grindelwald was really good, and having that same-sex representation on screen I think was really good. There was a lot of allusions in the books that, yes, they were very close friends as boys, but it was also more like, no, that they were lovers, they were in love, and that's confirmed canonically in this movie, and I think that was really good. I genuinely do think that that was a good part of the movie, and exploring that relationship was great. Exploring the entire Dumbledore prequel series, like exploring Dumbledore and Aberforth's relationship after the duel that killed Ariana, you know, Grindelwald and Dumbledore's relationship, that history there is so fascinating to Potter fans. That's what I want to see. And that's where the issue with this series comes in. Is it Fantastic Beasts or is it Dumbledore? Is it the Dumbledore prequel series or is it Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them with Newt Scamander? It's not both, and it can't be, and that's the fatal flaw of the Fantastic Beasts franchise, right? You can't have... I think that's what they've screwed up. You can't just have, you know, we're just going to shoehorn the Dumbledore story into this franchise. It's not doing it justice at all. It really does not do justice to that story, and you get glimmers of it in here. There are some... Like, Dumbledore explains what happens in that duel that killed Ariana. You know, they go, he talks about to Newt how him and Grindelwald were going away together. Aberforth didn't approve. And it's ambiguous. Like, I know Aberforth didn't approve because he wanted Albus to stay with Ariana and him. But it's also ambiguous as to whether there was like, and maybe I'm reading into this way too much, but whether there was like some homophobic thinking from Aberforth, that he didn't approve of the relationship between Albus and Grindelwald from that perspective. Kind of got glimpses of that, but I'm not 100% sure. Anyway, it led to Ariana being killed. And I guess we already knew that story, but hearing it from Dumbledore himself in that moment was really interesting. And again, I maintain that Jude Law is fantastic in this film. Absolutely fantastic as Dumbledore. Love him, love his work. Think he captures Dumbledore really well, and I enjoyed that. And that's what I want to see. I would love to see Jude Law playing Dumbledore with Grindelwald and Aberforth in a full movie like this, but then it's just the shoehorning of, but it's still Fantastic Beasts, so we have to incorporate all the beasts, and we have to get Newt and his brother and all these other characters in. We got to do that. We can't just have the Dumbledore prequel series because we've branded this as Fantastic Beasts, and that's the problem. You'll see there's billboards around Melbourne and I'm sure around the whole world where it's like, now the title of the film, like the Fantastic Beasts part is so small because they're like, no one wants to see Fantastic Beasts. But if we put the Secrets of Dumbledore in really big words, of course people want to see. I know that's the important part of the title. It's like Fantastic Beasts is barely part of the branding now, and you feel it. Newt is supposed to be the main character, but he's not. Dumbledore is the main character. Newt is like a side character now. All of the Newt stuff is side characters. All the Fantastic Beasts stuff is side characters. So why do it as Fantastic Beasts? That's the part I don't like. And then it just feels bloated. It actually feels like two movies in one. It feels like they're trying to make two different movies, but they can't because they like... And it's really confused and it's really stuck because it's like, what movie are we making here? And then that's where it drags a bit, I think. There's this whole subplot around this Fantastic Beast called the Chillin, which I actually thought was a funny name. It's a real mythological beast as well that's supposed to, in the movie, it knows what a noble person is, and it will bow to the most noble or the most respected person, like the pure of heart person. And this also caused issues for me in terms of the lore, because basically Grindelwald at the end, like there's an election, Grindelwald becomes like the supreme leader of the wizarding world because he killed one of the last Chillins, brought it back to life and bewitched it to bow to him, which is the sign that you're the most noble and pure of heart person up there. And then the real Chillin, the real alive one, the only other one, comes and they're like, oh, he bewitched us, blah, 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 blah. And then the real Chillin comes and bows to Dumbledore, saying Dumbledore is the pure of heart person and the only pure of heart person. And this was an issue for me, not a huge issue, but I did think it was an interesting choice because the whole point of the books, particularly the 7th book of Harry Potter, and being consistent with that lore, which, by the way, Fantastic Beasts hasn't been. Like, J.K. Rowling is kind of like just taking a lot of liberties with the established rules of her universe that she set up. But in the 7th book, we find out, and Harry finds out more importantly, which makes him really angry, that Dumbledore simply isn't a perfect person. He's actually incredibly flawed, has an incredibly flawed past and is incredibly like an incredibly dark past, particularly in his times with Grindelwald, looking for the Deathly Hallows, thinking that wizards need to take their rightful place above muggles. And obviously he changed over time, but I don't think the Chillin would have bowed to Dumbledore because that's the whole point of his character, is he's not perfect, is that we, the reader, spend the whole series thinking he's perfect and knows everything, only to realize he's not perfect. He doesn't know everything, and he has quite a whack past. I guess you could get around it by saying, oh, but Dumbledore is aware of his flaws and aware of all of this, therefore he is pure of heart because he wants to do the right thing. And I kind of stand by that. I don't mind that if that's the kind of explanation they're going for, but generally speaking, I didn't think the Chillin would have bowed to Dumbledore. There are amazing moments in the relationship and the confliction between Dumbledore and Grindelwald. They fight a lot, they duel at the end, it's really impressive CGI. Again, lots of this movie is wizard having basically sword fights with their wands or like shooting beams out of their wands that connect. That seems to be the style that the Harry Potter movies go for with the magic combat, which is fine, but just like, yeah, very same old kind of things. And I did like that there was a point where it reminded me of Deathly Hallows in the bank vault where all the stuff starts multiplying. All of the like they have like fake briefcases as like red herrings, and the stuff inside starts multiplying, just like in the Lestrange Gringotts vault in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. I really liked that. I thought that was really clever. Generally speaking, though, it's a very big cast of characters. Like, I actually totally, like, I look at some of the characters and I'm like, I don't even remember who you are. There's so many characters. The only ones I really remember are Dumbledore, Newt's brother, and then the Muggle guy, Jacob, who is really good. He's a good character. He obviously gets a fake wand, a wand that doesn't have a core, so he can't actually do magic with it. It was kind of implied in the trailers that he would be able to do magic, but he can't. He is a Muggle. They do go to Hogwarts again, and there's some of the iconic Harry Potter music that is played, and that's really cool. It's cool to be in a familiar environment with Hogwarts and seeing Hogwarts, I guess, again, being in the Great Hall and such. I know there was a bit of that in the previous movie, but yeah, I liked that, and I liked using the musical motifs from that movie. But again, it does kind of border on nostalgia porn a bit. But that being said, I don't mind nostalgia porn. I wouldn't have minded seeing a few other legacy characters coming in. Like, I mean, Aberforth does come in, but maybe even, yeah, I don't know, any other characters from the original series. I know that's kind of hard because it's a prequel, but like anything else like that, I think would have been interesting. Nagini, who was in Crimes of Grindelwald, does not appear at all in this film. She's obviously Nagini that ends up being Voldemort's Nagini. She's I can't even remember the magical term for what she is, but she's like got a curse where she becomes a snake. Not in it. Wondering if it's an abandoned plot arc or if she comes up again in the next movie. I also think the series will end, if there's a 5th movie, I think the last movie will end with Tom Riddle being born, with Voldemort being born, because we're around about that kind of period of, like, you know, I think he was born in the 50s. So I feel like we will end up there, because we're kind of around World War II, timeline-wise. But the movie doesn't really end. Like, Grindelwald doesn't get defeated, he just kind of leaves, but the blood pact between Dumbledore and Grindelwald breaks at the end, which does also suggest that they will have their iconic duel in which Dumbledore defeats Grindelwald, which is, you know, in the books we know that that happened from very early on. Of course, the final twist is that Credence is not, in fact, the brother of Dumbledore, but the nephew. He is Aberforth's illegitimate son, who, Aberforth slept with some woman the same time that Dumbledore and Grindelwald were dating or in love, and she bore a child, but they didn't know about him, and that's kind of how all that happened. I don't know, I didn't really feel as though that was an interesting twist, but it just kind of feels like a little bit tacked on. Like, I didn't really feel like, oh, okay, so that's actually Aberforth's son, so it's Dumbledore's nephew. Okay, cool. And then Grindelwald tries to kill Credence at the end, but both Albus and Aberforth defend him, which is how the blood pact actually ends. But I always thought that he clearly uses Avada Kedavra because it's a green light spell, which is often described as an unblockable spell, yet Aberforth and Albus quite easily block it with just another spell. So I don't know how that works and why the lore has changed around that spell, but because that was the whole point of the only way Lily was able to block the spell was because of her undying love as a mother. Yet Albus and Aberforth can just block it with their wands with a different spell. Like, that defeats the whole premise of the entire series, really. And I guess that what brings me to this feeling of, like, J.K. Rowling is just, like, making stuff up about her own franchise that isn't consistent with her logic, i.e. the Cursed Child, which is an abomination of the lore and logic of Harry Potter by J.K. Rowling herself. And, I mean, yeah, she's at liberty to do that. And I always say this is probably how Star Wars fans felt when George Lucas introduced the midichlorians in the prequel trilogy, which totally undermined the mystical nature of the Force, right? That there were these tiny little creatures that actually are the Force. People hated that. And I kind of feel like this is that moment for Harry Potter fans, The Cursed Child and Fantastic Beasts. These aren't bad movies. Like, they're fun movies, but I'd never watch this again. Whereas I will rewatch the Harry Potter films any day of the week. Maybe that's a nostalgia factor. But yeah, I watch the Fantastic Beasts movies and I'm just like, what is she doing? Why is she undoing? Like, you know, I think like I said, I would love for there to just be the isolated Dumbledore movie, not Fantastic Beasts 3, Fantastic Beasts 4. Just make Fantastic Beasts. Then make Quidditch Through the Ages. Make a sports Harry Potter movie about Quidditch. Great. Then make Dumbledore prequel series. Dumbledore prequel movie. with the elements in this that really work. With the moments in this movie that work. You know, it's terrible going from a Dumbledore moment to now Newt is saving his brother from some giant crab monsters. Yes, that's what we want. No. Fantastic Beasts should have been its own thing. Dumbledore series, Quidditch Through the Ages, cool. Then do, I don't know, the Voldemort prequel TV. If that's how you want to do it, like, make it a shared universe like Marvel. Like, look at what Marvel did. Marvel didn't just make Avengers. They did an Iron Man movie. They did a Captain America movie, a Hulk movie, a Thor movie, and then they did the Avengers. It took them 5 years to get to the Avengers. Whereas Fantastic Beasts is just like, yeah, Fantastic Beasts, oh, that was good. Now let's put Dumbledore in it and tell that story and brand it as Fantastic Beasts, where people are like, why? This is dumb. And the saddest part about this is that I think that the Wizarding World shared universe as a commercial entity is awesome for me. I want it to be a thing. I want all of this to be a thing, but not like this. Like, this isn't how I want it. That's a problem that a lot of Harry Potter fans have. Of course we want more lore, we want more stories, we want to know more about the characters, like what Star Wars is doing, like what Marvel does, like what every franchise is trying to do, right? Because we'll eat it up. But I just don't think this is a very good movie for Harry Potter fans or for normal cinema goers, because I was actually thinking, like, when I was watching it, I was like, if I didn't know anything about this franchise, I would have no idea what's going on. Absolutely no idea. At all. I'd be so confused and lost about all of this. I'd be like, what? Like, yeah. So overall, I think it's misguided. I think there's 2 movies here and there's an identity crisis. And the identity crisis is, what movie are we making? Are we making Fantastic Beasts 3 with Newt Scamander, or are we making The Secrets of Dumbledore? Because at the moment we're making 2 movies and trying to make them one, and it's not working. And that was the problem with the second movie. The first one I think is good. I would rewatch it because it just stands alone as a Harry Potter spin-off that isn't trying to get into any of the lore. It's just like, this is Fantastic Beasts and where to find them. And that's why I say do Quidditch Through the Ages. Do a Quidditch movie. Do any other movie. Do a movie about dragons, Charlie Weasley, whatever it is. Like, go and do movies in the world of Harry Potter. Don't try and tell all the stories in one franchise. It doesn't work. It's not going to work. And I think that's where I sit overall with this, because I was disappointed. I was just like, this is just a painfully average movie. And the glimmers and the glimpses of Jude Law as Dumbledore, this amazing actor playing a phenomenal character, genuinely such a complex and fascinating character that we can see more of, learn more about Dumbledore, who, you know, the books kind of just really scratched the surface. By the last one, we were getting there, but this was our chance to get it all, and we just didn't. And yeah, and I know they're just going to keep making these movies, but overall, that's my thoughts on Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore. I think the Wizarding World should innovate by make a series on Voldemort, Tom Riddle at Hogwarts. Make the Quidditch movie. Make a bunch of other movies. Don't just keep making this bloated, misguided, identity mismatched franchise that just isn't really working. But I feel like I get the impression J.K. Rowling is a little bit arrogant, not in a bad way, but people say George Lucas was really arrogant and surrounded himself with yes men. And Harry Potter is definitely, to me, the Star Wars of this generation, of this century. And I think J.K. Rowling doesn't want to back down and be like, no, Fantastic Beasts isn't working. I think she's like, yeah, we can make it work. We can make it work. And she's trying to scramble to get it to work. But yeah, it's not. So those are my thoughts. I'd love to know your thoughts. I'll read them out on the next Our Post episode. But yeah, thank you so much, guys, for watching / listening. I really appreciate it. And I'll speak to you soon. See you later. This episode of Harry Potter and the Boys was brought to you by Radio Mike on Patreon and the 20th Century Boy podcast. For as little as $1 a month, get a bonus podcast every week at patreon.com/Radio Mike. And search 20th Century Boy on your favourite podcast app to hear more from me every single week. See you there. This podcast was a Radio Mike original production. Head to radiomike.com.au to check out all our other content, stay up to date at radio.mike on Instagram, and get in touch, radiomikepod@gmail.com.